I want to welcome you to this session, and if you look at the title, you'll see that while as Public Awareness Director of the National Groundwater Association, my primary interest is educating the public about groundwater, water well systems, but I've found that that in and of itself often isn't enough to motivate professionals in the industry to get actively engaged in educating the public. And so I have combined the objective of educating the public with promoting your business. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. If you are putting yourself out there before the public as an expert, then you are establishing, and we'll get into this a little bit more, you're establishing yourself as an authority, a credible authority. And so that's a powerful marketing tool. So that's going to be the focus of our presentation. So I've started with a problem statement. Groundwater is a vital natural resource, yet the public, including many well owners, know little about it. So that, I'm sure, has anybody experienced that phenomenon in this room? Raise your hand if you have. Okay. Many, if not most. So the challenge then is how can you promote groundwater awareness and market your business at the same time? And I'm going to make the assertion that by the end of this session, you will know how to do that with very little effort on your part. And you will have not only the knowledge, but the means to do exactly what we're talking about here. But first, why is public awareness a good marketing tool? Well, first, you're making the public aware of information that is important and relevant to them. That's very key to this presentation, important and relevant information, thereby establishing a relationship with them, because you are the ones that are conveying this important, relevant information to them. And of course, we know that, two of the major areas that make it relevant are naturally occurring constituents in groundwater. We know, for instance, in the Northeast that arsenic can be an issue. In other parts of the country, like in Ohio, radon can be an issue. And then, of course, bacteria, because it's so pervasive, can be an issue anywhere. And then we have the man-made contamination, industrial sites, nitrate, leaking underground storage tanks, failed septic systems. People know little about this, and yet these things can have a very significant impact on the quality of their groundwater. Another reason why this is relevant is, and you guys know these numbers, but I think it's just worth pointing out how many American residents are served by privately owned wells, over 41 million, 13.2 domestic wells. So we're talking about very significant numbers here of people, families. Another thing that they know, a lot of well owners know little about, is something that we would think would be basic, but it's the regular maintenance that a well system may require. And another reason why you guys want to be out front sharing this information is because there are already other organizations that are doing that. And if it were me, I would rather be the ones telling well owners about water quality, maintenance, proper well construction, groundwater protection than the CDC. I think you guys are in a better position, and frankly, you know more about it. So it's another incentive to get out there and tell the public. And another area I just touched on, but we've talked about well maintenance, but water testing and treatment. As you know, this is a routine practice that well owners should engage in. But we also see that in times of controversy, such as with the hydraulic fracturing, the lack of knowledge that people have about their groundwater quality can escalate into controversy and fear, sometimes unfounded. And so that's another incentive for you, the experts, the professionals, to be out front giving people reliable information. So what we're going to be talking about today is building a relationship with the public by providing important, relevant information. And as you do that, your reputation will increase, and the trust that you have with the public, the consumers, will increase. And as I'm giving this presentation, please, I want to leave plenty of time for questions, because my presumption is some of you may already be doing some public awareness, and you may be thinking of it in marketing terms, but I suspect a lot of you aren't in any significant way. And so as we go through this presentation, please write down your questions so that we have some discussion here at the end. And before I go any further, because I know Alan Eads, former president of NGWA, I'm jumping a little bit ahead because he was just sharing something with me that kind of underscores exactly what this presentation is about. And Alan, if in a minute or two you could just briefly share what you are doing through Facebook and how that's promoting your business. Let's put them in the spotlight. Oh, here, Alan.
Hold.
Oh. Yeah.
That's all. No, I'm Alan Eads. I have two college-age daughters right now. They got me on Facebook when they started going to college, just kind of keep up with them. Then it just kept growing, and I started a Eads Drilling and Pump Service page. I'm a drilling contractor from Hobbs, New Mexico, and it's free marketing, free advertising. I'm using it, posting a bunch of links. One of the last things I posted last week before I came up here were the classes I was going to attend. So the people that see that page, they know what kind of continuing ed I'm seeking and doing it for their benefit, to be able to provide them a good job. But just here this year, I know the wells I know of, I've had 3 contact me off of Facebook, saw it. So that's 3 wells that I got through free advertising.
And those are the 3 you know about.
Those
there could be
are the 3
more.
I know about. There have been a couple more that have seen my page and commented on it to my mom and sister at our office. And it's one way. I'm not using it to communicate with people or really to get contacts. Made that pretty clear. Don't contact me through my Facebook page for a service call. Better call the office, because it may be a week before I check my Facebook page. But I'm sharing links to different stories. I think you said you have a...
Yeah, I have an example of his page in the presentation.
But it's just a cheap way. I'm cheap. Look for the best bang for your buck, and that's pretty easy. Facebook sends out a weekly email to me about how many people have looked at the page, liked it, made comments. They're even adding some other, what is it called, an insight page, that it tracks what changes you have. It's given me a lot more information, just kind of see what maybe do I need to do a little different on that page. But it's a neat deal. But I've got to head to another deal for first-time attendees, but Cliff does a really good job on our public awareness. You will learn something that's of benefit from it. But if y'all do have any questions that come up about the Facebook thing, see me around the hall later, stop and holler at me. Thanks.
Thanks, Alan. I just wanted him to share that because we will be showing an example of his Facebook page, And what you're going to note is that the information that Alan was posting, at least in this example, is important, relevant information to the well owner. It's not a sales pitch. He's sharing information that they need to know, and he's establishing credibility, and people are coming to him to do business. So we'll see that more specifically. So here's the other thing I've said this already, but I'll say it again. What I'm going to be talking about today is not making something from scratch and reinventing the wheel. We're going to provide you with tools and resources so that you could jump into this tomorrow if you wanted to in some fashion without starting from scratch. We want to make it easy for you to engage in this public education process and promote your business. So I'm going to go over 5 different ways you can do that. First 2, I hope you know at least about National Groundwater Awareness Week, but hopefully both. But if you don't, I'm just going to talk about it a little bit. Every March, this coming year, March 11th through 17th, the National Groundwater Association has a National Groundwater Awareness Week. And we have a page on our NGWA.org website dedicated to Groundwater Awareness Week, which I would encourage you to go to www.ngwa.org and find that page. You can just put Groundwater Awareness Week in the search field. But this gets a lot of attention nationally. Last year, this year, it's still this year, more than 300 websites or social media sites like Facebook promoted Groundwater Awareness Week. A lot of states are promoting it. A lot of local jurisdictions are promoting it. It is something that you can use as an excuse to get before the public and tell them some of these important, relevant things they need to know. And so I would mark that down, March 11th through 17th. You have plenty of time to figure out how you might want to use that week to communicate public awareness matters to your service areas. And we'll show you some specific ways to do that. Protect Your Groundwater Day. Where Awareness Week was so successful, so many people were jumping on board, we decided, let's get another bite out of the apple. So 6 months, almost to the week, later in the year, we decided to have another event. And in only its second year, more than 200 websites and social media sites promoted it. And the point being, this thing has legs, and you can use it to draw some attention to the public awareness and to your business. Just to give you an idea of some of the people or some of the organizations that have jumped on board, American Farm Bureau Federation, huge organization. They have farm bureaus in every state. They have local farm bureaus. American Automotive Oil Change Association. These are the Jiffy Lubes and the Quick Lube places. They accept used motor oil. They've found, this is really interesting, here's an industry that probably has a reputation for polluting, oil industry and so forth. This organization was already promoting groundwater protection through the proper disposal of waste oil, but they jumped on board with Awareness Week because they saw that this was a way they could promote their businesses and environmental responsibility. So they're doing exactly what we're talking about doing. Let's see, I'll skip around. We've got the U.S. EPA. We've got the U.S. Geological Survey. We've got the National On-Site Wastewater Recycling Association. That's the one that represents the septic system installers. And so we've got healthcare organizations. So this is interesting. A lot of times we work. Well, you can't read that, but it's National Environmental Health Association. A lot of times we worry about these healthcare organizations scaring people about groundwater and well water. But here's the interesting thing. they're basically using the message we've put together to promote to their people. So they are actually carrying forth the message that we want to carry forth about groundwater protection, water testing. So we found a way to make allies out of those people. The basic difference between the two events, Awareness Week is kind of a general groundwater education and water well stewardship focus. Very general education, but it's plenty of opportunity there for you as business people. Then the other one, Protect Your Groundwater Day, is really very action-oriented. We try to suggest specific action steps that any person can take, whether or not they're a well owner or just a member of the general public. They could be on public water, but we're still saying you can do something to protect the groundwater resource. So that's the whole point of that one is to get people to take some kind of action to protect groundwater. And in the process, again, we're educating the public about groundwater, and for you as business people, it's a chance to get before the public. If you're a well owner, you've got a contractor, for instance, getting out into the local newspaper talking about the importance of protecting groundwater, as a well owner, I would perceive that as somebody's trying to help me. They care about the quality of my water. They want to help me. That's good. I would respect that. That would make me want to perhaps go to them if I needed business. So, and it's a way of getting your name into their heads. So what the point I'm making here is just you can piggyback on these events, and if we're all stretched for time, we're all stretched for money, and not enough people to do all the work. But what I'm suggesting is you could, by jumping on these events and borrowing, using anything on that website, copy it, link to it, whatever you want to do. If you want to turn it into a column, it's up to you. You have permission to do that. Our interest is to make it as easy as possible for you to get out in front of the public and educate them. Oops. Okay, so I kind of just touched on it, but here are the 4 different kind of strategies or tactics that I'm going to suggest. And the first one is use the messages and logos that we already have on the web page for National Groundwater Awareness Week and Protect Your Groundwater Day. Just, we're not going to sue you for plagiarism if you take it. If you want to attribute it to us, fine. But if you want to just use it, use it. So you're not creating content from scratch. But the second point, you may want to take that content we have and you may want to customize it to your local situation. For instance, let's say that you have some issues with abandoned wells in your area. There's been something in the paper about the aquifer being polluted. Somebody poured something down an abandoned well, whatever. You might want to really zero in on that. Take that content, rework it to fit your local situation, and then you can use that as your public awareness pitch. And we'll have some other examples of ways to customize. The third point, what I mean by that, communication methods. If you have email, there might be a way that you can use email lists to send information to people. If you have Facebook, you can do it through Facebook. If you're on the internet, you can be on Facebook. So there's a way that you could use that. If you are a member of a civic club and you're already doing presentations, that's a communications channel that you have. So what I'm suggesting is I think everybody in this room is communicating with the public in some fashion. And so if you have those things already in place, figure out how you can use them. If you have a web page, And then the last one is just to partner with somebody locally to extend your reach. Now, what I would do there is I would just think about who do I have connections with in the community. For instance, if I have a friend who's a realtor, maybe I can partner with the realtors to work together to get the message out. If you have a relationship with the news media, maybe you know an editor at the local paper, you might be able to talk to them and say, hey, National Groundwater Awareness Week is coming up. A lot of your readers have wells. What if you did an editorial or a story on Awareness Week? You know, figure out who you know in the community that is in contact with the people you're trying to reach, and see if there's a way you can collaborate with them. So again, we're not reinventing the wheel. This is a screen capture of the Protect Your Groundwater Day page, and you know there's a logo there. Now I realize all of you may not be. I don't consider myself to be tech savvy, but some of you may know more than I do, some of you may know less, but you probably know somebody who knows how to right-click on a logo, copy it, and then you can paste it onto your Facebook page or onto your web page. So you can take that, you can copy and paste the content of this page. What I'm saying is use it. You don't have to start from scratch. And if you have any questions about how to use any of this information, that's my email address. Don't hesitate to send me an email, and I'll help you any way I can. Here are three. I just got on the web and just put in Protect Your Groundwater Day and Awareness Week and found here's three contractors who did exactly what I'm talking about. Eichelbergers, Inc. in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, put something on their web page about Protect Your Groundwater Day. Foster Well Drilling, and I think I cut off where they're located, but you can see here that they did something with National Groundwater Awareness Week. And then JKA Well and Pump Drilling, they jumped on, I think that was actually Protect Your Groundwater Day, but they have a release. I just got the top part of these pages to give you an idea that people are doing exactly what we're talking about doing. And it's very, very easy. The point of this is just this is an example I already gave, but we have a ton of resources on not only the NGWA website, but NGWA, if you don't know, has another website called wellowner.org. So it's www.wellowner.org. There is a ton of information on there, very practical, simple information for well owners. You're free to borrow, copy, use any of that. And again, you know, if you have a particular issue, whatever it might be, you can find something, use it, zero in on it. Yes, you can access, if you get on the NGWA homepage, www.ngwa.org, and there's these tabs at the near the top of the page. The one on the far right says Media Center, I believe, and if you click on that, you can access the Awareness Week page, the Protect Your Groundwater Day page, and wellowner.org. Yeah. Now make sure you write down your questions because we want to talk about some of this when I'm done. Here's another resource, and this isn't even ours, but again, we're trying to practice what we're preaching here. In the area of groundwater protection, one of the things that we say on wellowner.org is to properly store, properly use, and properly dispose of hazardous household substances. And those are, you know, those could be, well, here's a whole list of them, different ones. We talk about things like fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, paint thinners, things that people sometimes will dump on the ground or just throw in the trash. They may not store it. You know, people store stuff in sheds and the lids get loose and the bags break and then stuff spills on the ground and then it gets into the groundwater. So this resource is a place where people can go to, they put in your zip code, and it will show you what programs in the area can handle these sort of things. So we're not only telling them properly use, store, and dispose of them, but we're actually giving them some guidance on how to properly dispose of them. Because if you just tell them to do it, but you don't give them some guidance, they may still not know what to do. So that's a resource you could share. We talked a little bit about taking the content that NGWA is making available to you and customizing it, in addition to decommissioning abandoned wells. And we talked about the hazardous household waste. Another one is the importance of properly maintained septic systems. And I realize that you may be walking a line there about getting into somebody else's line of business, because there are guys that install and service these systems, but it can affect groundwater, and so I think there's a place, particularly if you know of situations, or there's been situations where failed septic systems have created problems, to share some information with the public about that. And then proper separation from distances from the wellhead. That may be another issue that you may want to educate the public about. I heard a story. You've probably heard horror stories. I heard stories about wellheads being located in an animal enclosure, or like 2 feet from an animal enclosure. The things that I think professionals and regulators would all say, no, you want to have a proper distance between the wellhead and these animal enclosures for obvious reasons. That's another bit of information you could share. I'm just giving you some examples. Okay. Third way to promote your business and groundwater stewardship is, and it's really this stuff here. In addition to, when I talked about Awareness Week and Protect Your Groundwater Day, that is really kind of a strategy. It's using those events as a platform for getting before the public. These are really more tactics. These are ways that let's say you want to get involved in Awareness Week. Then the question is, how do I get the message that I want to deliver to the public? These are some ways, not all, but some, and I've put some copies of this Public Awareness Toolbox on the back table. If you want to take one, feel free. And it just gives you, I call it it's kind of like a primer, it's just a basic information on how you can write a news release, how you can partner, how you can exhibit, tips on presentations, things like that. If you've not done these things before, but you want to try, grab a copy of that. And if we run out, email me and I can send you an electronic file of it. Okay, here we're going to talk just a little bit about Facebook, because as Alan said, it's free. And I don't know if you caught this, but when Alan was talking about Facebook, where did he say he got the help to get on Facebook? Does anybody remember? From his kid. So what does that say? It says you don't have to be an expert on Facebook. You just need to know somebody who understands it. And I bet you know somebody who's on Facebook. Since there's now, 300 million people on Facebook, you can probably find someone who could help you start a page. Alan's funny. I mean, he is now on Facebook, but he's also got a smartphone. And this guy, who probably knew nothing about any of this stuff 5 years ago, is now posting pictures to his Facebook site from the field and posting information to his the people who are following him. I mean, Alan is. I don't want to insult Alan, but if Alan can learn this, you can learn this. And if you want to start a Facebook page, it's really simple. You can just go to Google and put in Facebook, and then there's a help center on the Facebook when you go to the top, or you can find that, and then let's see, creating and administering your page, and then it gives you prompts. How can I create a page? You just keep following the prompts. Are you official representative of an organization, da-da-da. And then if so, you click here. And then it just gives you kind of a template, and you just start filling stuff in and loading stuff in. And that may be the part where you need some help from a son or daughter or somebody that knows more about you than you do. But it is doable. It is doable, and it's free. Now, I do want to say a little bit about Facebook. A lot of the ways that we communicate with the public are one direction. It's the person, like in advertising, you place an ad, you're communicating to the audience. The audience is not communicating to you. It's the same way with a lot, newspapers. When you do a presentation, unless it's a big discussion rather than a presentation, it's pretty one way. Facebook is different. Facebook is more about having a dialogue with people who are interested in what you have to share. And so it's not so much direct marketing, but as you'll see, the term is conversational marketing. You're having a conversation with people, and in the process of having this dialogue, you're actually marketing. Focus on the value to your followers. That's the key thing. If they don't find if you're having a dialogue with somebody and everything you're telling them is not interesting or relevant to them, if it's just a straight sales pitch, it'll be like a telemarketer. The minute you hear them go into the sales pitch, you click, is what happens most of the time. So you want to focus on things that are of value. May not be your services or anything, but what you're doing is you're creating a dialogue and a trust with the people that are following your page. Useful, there's that word again. Provide useful information that they will want to share. And that's a really important thing because it's interesting, but there's a way on Facebook you can look at the people who are following you, and I don't know if this is a calculation or whether they actually measure it, but if you go so there are people following your Facebook page. If you go one generation out, it grows exponentially, and if you go another generation out, you don't have to go too many steps before you could potentially reach tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. And so if you're posting information that is not only useful, but things that people would want to share, you could be getting your information in front of a much, much larger audience. It's really pretty amazing. And then the last one, I think what you also want to think in terms of how can you create a dialogue with the people who are following your Facebook page that makes them feel like they're a part of a community. And this would be, is anybody on the Well on the NGWA website? It's a really cool thing. It's a listserv, and basically a person can post a message. We've had a lot of professionals, well drillers and consultants, post a question. I have this project, and I've run into this issue, and I think this is the way to do it, but I'm not sure. People will start responding to that, and I've seen ones get 24 responses from really qualified, informed professionals in one day. But the thing that's interesting about to me is it's a dialogue, and it's kind of like a community. The people who post on the Well a lot, I think, are starting to feel some connection to one another. And so it's almost like they're having a conversation with a group of people they know, in a sense. And I think that's kind of what you're hoping to do on Facebook. So I'll read this, but the parts that are really important are underlined. This is from a book called The New Influencers. It's talking about social media, but it says, social media offers marketers a chance to break the gridlock and engage with their customers in a whole new way. The new discipline is coming to be known as conversational marketing. It means creating a dialogue with customers in which useful information is exchanged so that both parties benefit from the relationship. So again, it's not a one-way thing. As trust builds, customers develop loyalty that makes them long-term partners, leading to a more lasting relationship. So that's kind of the approach of social media, and Facebook is one type of social media. Twitter is another, but I'll be honest with you, I don't quite understand Twitter yet, so I'll learn that someday, but I'm just sticking with Facebook. So here is an example of Northeast Water Wells has a Facebook page, and this is interesting. Here's somebody who's posted something about a property tax bill. I believe this is in, I'm not sure, Massachusetts, somewhere in New England. And so it's not a water well thing. It really has nothing to do directly with groundwater or water wells, but it is useful and important information to anybody that owns property. And so even though it's somewhat unrelated, if people are coming to this Facebook page because they know they're going to find out things that are interesting and relevant, you're building a following, and it just makes it that much better when you post something that is directly related to groundwater and wells. You'll notice the next post here is from the company is making a pitch for well inspections. That is kind of direct marketing. There's probably a way you can make that post so that it wasn't so much a sales pitch, but like I talked to a customer recently who hadn't had their pump or haven't had their well checked for X number of years, and I discovered some things that if they had checked it 2 years ago, we could have saved them from a system failure or something like that. That would be an indirect way of doing the same sales pitch. Here's the other nice thing about Facebook. Because people can talk back to you, you get some unsolicited endorsements. Here's somebody who's very happy with the service they got, and because Facebook, you can post something or respond to something, they had a chance to do an endorsement for the business. And Ashley Conley, who said she liked that, she actually owns the business. So, that's pretty cool. Oh, and then here's another thing. These well videos are on our wellowner.org website, and one is about well maintenance, another one's about water testing, and the third one is about groundwater protection. So this company has just linked to those videos, and that's sharing important, relevant information with the customers or with the followers. Now, here's another unsolicited endorsement. So people, people when they like what they're getting, they'll sometimes use this to express that publicly. Now, the potential downside would be that somebody doesn't like the service they got, or let's just say they've got a beef, but you know what? Everything I've read, and we've had Facebook pages at NGWA, we have 2 of them, it's never been an issue, really. And if it was an issue, if somebody said something inappropriate, you can always take it off. But if it's let's say it's not clearly inappropriate, they just disagree with something, the people who know more about this than I do would say, just let it go. I mean, if you're too heavy-handed and somebody has a legitimate gripe and you take it off, that could look self-serving. People could start to see that you're just really, it's not a real dialogue. It's only a dialogue with people that tell me what I want to hear. So
I think you're right on that. People need to vent. You know, once they blow that pop-off valve for a little bit, they calm right down. If you try to shut that down, they're just going to build more steam.
yeah. And the other thing, too, is I think there are opportunities there. If somebody blows off about something and they don't know what they're talking about, there's a way that you could, in a kind way, say, I hear what you're saying, I can understand why you're upset, but I think there's a way that you can address this that will take care of your problem. So you could actually take that negative and turn it into a positive. So that underscores the importance of understanding your role in the dialogue. Here is Alan's page we were talking about a little bit earlier, and I like this post because Alan right here, he's not, we talked about conversational marketing where you have a dialogue and you're giving them useful, important information. He says, I've just been made aware of an accident involving a homeowner pulling a submersible pump out of his water well. There were 2 injured, one of whom died from complications of a broken back. Is the risk worth the money saved? Call a licensed, he doesn't say call Alan Eads. He says call a licensed, professionally trained and certified contractor. Now, if I'm following this page and I see that, what that says to me is he's concerned about people getting hurt. He's also not being self-serving in the sense that he's not saying call me. He's basically telling them call a licensed professional. But I bet you if I read this on Alan's page, I would call Alan, because he's the one that's telling me this important stuff. Here's another post that he did, celebrate the groundwater industry, and I think this is in connection with Awareness Week. Or no, I'm not sure. Here's one about the rescue of the miners in Chile that were rescued by the well drilling approach. None of those have anything to do with marketing him directly, and yet I think that's all very interesting stuff, and it's the kind of page I think people would want to come to. So, again, what would their followers find valuable? What would most of my followers be likely to share? What kind of information? And then how can I make them feel like they belong to a community? One other thing on this last point. I think one way to do that is if somebody posts something to something you've posted, I always try to find a way to respond back. Not to correct them necessarily or anything, but just to, even if it's just, that's a great idea, or, thanks, I appreciate that, or whatever it is, but it's showing them, a dialogue is back and forth, so you're recognizing that you've read what they posted and you appreciate what they posted, and that, again, builds trust and goodwill. And then here's just some examples of the kinds of information. We've talked about most of these already, but information on maintenance, water testing, etc. Anything local in the news that might be relevant. Financing and tax information that might be of interest to a well owner. Some people offer specials, sales and service. So you may want to experiment with that, just to see what kind of response you get. And then there's some things that have nothing to do with groundwater, but it helps build that sense of community and connectedness. And then this is what I talked about. I know that Alan Eads and Augie Gardino, who's on our national board, he also posts a lot of pictures from the field. He'll be out on a project and he's run into some interesting situation, or let's say he came up with a solution to a problem. He'll take a picture, post it on his Facebook page, and then explain it. And it's just a way of kind of putting up interesting stuff there and engaging your followers. Okay, last point, and then shortly I want to invite questions. So if you haven't written one down yet, please do. Most of what we've been talking about is proactive. In other words, you are initiating a communication with the public, and you're kind of starting from scratch, and not starting from scratch, but you are the initiator of that communication. You can also be reactive, and I've given you some examples here of what I'm talking about, but NGWA, a lot of times these natural disasters, particularly hurricanes and earthquakes, can have implications for well owners, either well flooding or damaging of well systems because of the shifting of the earth. And we will be reactive in taking advantage of that to communicate to the public relevant, important information. It may be, in the case of well flooding, to be honest with you, in a massive flood, it's already happened, and at NGWA, we do not advise people to service their own wells. We always try to direct them to the professionals, but it's a perfect opportunity for us to say, if your well has been flooded, don't try to service it yourself. Contact a qualified water well contractor, and we may be helping them in a couple of ways. They may end up not electrocuting themselves or hurting themselves by trying to go into a flood area to do something with their pump, and we're directing business to hopefully to our NGWA members. Similar thing with the earthquake. I went back and looked in Water Well Journal. We've had numerous stories in the past about earthquakes and well systems and how it could affect the system directly, or it could affect the aquifer. Water that produced X number of gallons prior to the earthquake, after the earthquake, won't produce that much because the aquifer has been disturbed in some way, or it could be a water quality issue. So we put out a news release after this one in Virginia, which affected a lot of that eastern seaboard, and gave them similar advice about using qualified professionals. And then this last one, well, of course, we have all followed some of the coverage of the hydraulic fracturing. And one thing that we did was put together an information brief. It's like a 4-page document that gives guidance to private well owners about testing prior to hydraulic fracturing activity and then after hydraulic fracturing activity. And what we tried to do was create testing parameters that for some areas, use indicators. So in other words, okay, we give them these parameters, and if a certain indicator is positive or shows a certain result, that then would be a trigger to do more extensive testing. What we were trying to do, though, was not give them the full suite on the front end, because a lot of well owners wouldn't do the testing because it would be too expensive. So we tried to come up with something that was practical and affordable and would tell them if they needed to do more testing. But again, we reacted to all the controversy about hydraulic fracturing. So back to kind of to our overarching theme about using useful, timely information, important information to establish you and your business as an expert, and thereby market your business. So you got to give me some questions, because we still have a little time left. Because if you don't ask me a question, I'll ask you a question. Yes?
I live in Texas, and we have local groundwater conservation districts.
Mm-hmm.
They're single, sometimes they're multi-county. Do you have any experience cooperating with them as far as the situational awareness?
Well, actually, a lot of those conservation districts are, particularly in Texas, are participating in National Groundwater Awareness Week and in Protect Your Groundwater Day. And if you get on Google and put in National Groundwater Awareness Week Texas or Protect Your Groundwater Day Texas, you'll see a lot of those districts have used those events to put out messages about groundwater, water well stewardship. So that's kind of indirect partnering with them. We also are going to try this in 2012. Most of the partnerships that we have, we call them promotional partnerships for Awareness Week and Protect Your Groundwater Day, are with national organizations. But in 2012, we're going to try to do more partnerships with state or even local organizations, because a lot of them are already jumping on board. And again, the whole idea is there's only so much NGWA can do out of its own resources to get a message out to the entire country. But if we can find partners, you know, we're enlisting a whole army of people, organizations, to get the message out. The final point about that is I realize that a lot of these organizations, probably including some of the water districts, don't always see eye to eye with maybe the well driller at the local level. You know, there may be some competing interests there. But I think that within the scope of groundwater or water well stewardship, you can find something where there's some common ground. You know? In other words, you don't have to agree with them on everything, but what can you agree with them on? You know, and then maybe partner in that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just didn't know kind of what the experience has been. Our groundwater district is not.
Oh.
They're not active in that. It's a fairly young district, so I didn't know what the experience was.
Well, you know, that might be a good opportunity for you to approach them. And if you want to email me, maybe I can send you some of the districts that I know are doing things. And I went out to the Groundwater Foundation annual meeting in Omaha in October and talked to a guy with a water district in Texas, but I can't remember which one. I have his card back at the office. They are doing a ton of stuff, awareness stuff, the very kinds of things that we're trying to promote, particularly in the area of conservation, because they're in an area that's really, I mean, I know a lot of Texas has been hit hard, but they're doing all kinds of public awareness. Yeah. So you may be able to start something. Yes?
The course number, please.
Oh, thank you. Okay, the number, well, the designation is CT 12PD. P as in Paul, D as in dog. So it's CT12PD. Yeah. Who else has a question? Yeah.
On the website, that well, that I guess would be a community of practice page where people can communicate.
Yeah.
You can get to that without being a member, I assume?
Yes.
Anyone, anywhere?
You can.
Ask them if we answer.
Yeah. I've had a lot of calls from people who were looking for some advice on something, and you know, and I've told them, I always tell them about the well, and then I always suggest that they join the association, you know, and some of them have. But yeah, that's open to anybody. And so if you get on the home page of ngwa.org, in the upper right-hand corner, they have some little icons, including like the Facebook one and Twitter one, but there's one there that says the well. And you just click on that, and it'll tell you how to subscribe.
Is that a fairly large database? If I were to go on there, I could scroll through and see some of the questions and answers, problems and solutions from previous...
Well, you know, the way that works, it's a list serve, and so what happens is if you enroll, you post something and you receive it as an email, and then other people will respond, and you'll see the string for that particular email. But the only way you could get a whole history of it would be to save all the emails.
So I wouldn't be able to go on there and like.
It's not archived, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to see someone else's problem and solution they have, and see kind of compared to mine versus an individual kind of a.
No, there's no history you can look at, but you can, if you subscribe, you'll see every post. So if somebody posts something on a problem that's of interest to you, you could save those emails, and if they're not of interest to you, like I've looked at them before, and I try to read them just because I learn a lot. But if there's one I wouldn't be interested in, I just wouldn't read those ones. I'd just delete them. We still have a few more minutes, so if anybody else has a question. Nope? Okay, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Don't forget we've got those Public Awareness Toolbox. Thank you.